Hi there, everybody. My name is Shannon Wooten, and this is my husband.
Hey.
Scott Wooten. He has a name. In honor of National Infertility Awareness Week, we wanted to do a video. I'm not sure how quick or how long this will be, but we just wanted to do a recording to share and celebrate this week. And celebrate, I use loosely because it is a time to celebrate those who continue to endure and continue to push forward in the struggle to conceive and to actualize their dreams. And the two of us are no stranger to this struggle, are no stranger to this experience, and are no stranger to celebrating this week with all of you. And I use celebration intentionally because there are a lot of deep and dark moments.
Did we tell them that it's Infertility Awareness Week?
Yeah, I said at the very beginning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, celebrating National Infertility Awareness Week is what I said. And I use celebration intentionally because there's a lot of dark moments in the struggle, but there's also a lot of lessons and a lot of wisdom and a lot of self-discovery that comes through this experience. And I don't know, I think I'm a completely different person now than when we were diagnosed. What did we say? It was almost 8 years ago. We've been married 7. We'll be coming up on our 8th year wedding anniversary in November. And about, I think it was 6 months, maybe a little more, 7 or 8 months prior to getting married, I went to the doctor because I had that gut instinct that something was wrong. Because, I mean, we weren't having protected sex. We were getting married, but I mean, we just weren't. And nothing was happening. And, but going back to what I said, I think on the other side of this, I feel like I'm a completely different person than I was before we were diagnosed, before we went through the treatments, before anything. What do you think?
Well, I think there's been a lot of work that you've done since then that has changed you. I don't know that infertility changed you. I think it was a starting point for you deciding to do the work that you've done, but I don't think, I mean, I do think that you're a different person, to answer your question.
Right.
Yes, but I don't think it's like the person that you are now is not because of infertility.
No, and that's a huge point for me. Scott, my husband, actually designed this logo for me. I have a bunch of stickers too. I should probably have gotten those out, but I didn't. Anyways, it says Infertility Sucks, you don't. I have them. But he designed this logo for me when I started to explain to him what it felt like going through infertility. And that is just what you said is the basis of my book, Infertility Sucks, You Don't, because infertility wasn't the thing that, it wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back that encouraged me or incited me to go on this journey of self-discovery and self-learning and self-exploration and self-forgiveness and self-compassion, self-responsibility. It was the straw that broke the camel's back for me, and I do explain that in my book. But the point of this conversation, the point of us coming together, united today, sharing about infertility, is to really normalize the struggle, to normalize the human and our human experiences, and to let you know that, you know, we've been on this journey for almost
however long,
8 or 9 years at this point. And as I mentioned, there are peaks and there are valleys, and there are moments where you feel like you don't know who you are. There are moments where you feel like you've lost yourself. There are moments where you feel like a failure. There is just a bevy of experiences available, to be had in this experience. And the truth of the matter is, if you are in a relationship and you are pursuing fertility treatments, that you're not alone. And our experience is unique because, and I think every experience is unique, but to me, our experience is unique because I never wanted to have kids. And every time I say that, I always feel like out there in the world somewhere, there's like a pin dropping that everybody can hear. And everyone's like, what?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to have kids. It was a deal breaker for me. That's when we were dating. I said, if you don't want to have kids, then we shouldn't get married because I want to have kids. And that was...
And we broke up.
We broke up for like 3 hours. That's not hard.
We broke up. It's important to say, like, we broke up because I wasn't certain. I wasn't certain that I wanted to have kids. And it's important for people to know that. Like, it took me soul searching to arrive at whether or not I really wanted that, independent of this person who I was in a relationship with for years at that time telling me that that was a deal breaker for him. That was all well and good.
You're kind of taking over where I was going.
Oh, sorry.
So what I was trying to say is that she didn't want to have kids, and then it was kind of dangerous later when I was the one that wanted to stop doing the infertility treatments because of how the drugs were affecting her and how they were taking over her body and her mind and all of that stuff. And I would rather have my wife as a complete person who she is, not on drugs and having the hormones change who she is, versus having a kid. So I think that it's important, especially for men out there, to be aware that you might.
My phone died, and now we're stitching these together. And you were saying it's important to acknowledge about men.
Yeah, when you're going through, I'm trying to figure out exactly where I left off. Anyway, the point was she had it in her mind that I would leave her if we didn't have kids, and that wasn't the case. I want to have kids with her, not with someone else. And her wanting to have kids with me was the thing that was the deal breaker, not the fact that if we got dealt this hand that we've been dealt, that I would leave her because something. And the truth is, we don't even know which one of us is
the culprit.
Yeah, what's the right word? I don't want to say broken because nobody's broken, but like can feel that way. They say that my guys swim like they have backpacks on. I've never heard that before. Could be.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at it. I'm just laughing at your.
Yeah.
You're just owning that. It's just so admirable, and I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Okay. I just want to acknowledge you and your courage for saying that first and foremost, and secondarily that, you know, my getting upset before the video cut out and right now is not me. It's just it's heartfelt to hear somebody share their truth in that way, and what he's saying is true. As I mentioned before, I didn't want to have kids, and my decision to want to have kids was purely because I love our relationship and I love who we are together. And the thought came about, you know, when I said, fine, if it's a deal breaker, see you, bye. That's just how I responded. But when it came down to it, I recognized that, just like he said, we had the same sentiment but didn't know it. It's not that I didn't want to have kids, and it's not that I decided that I wanted to have them simply because he said to me what his boundary and his want was. That, oh yeah, now suddenly I changed my mind. It was that I love this man and I would want to have a child with him. And that's what changed my mind. And truthfully, going throughout the entire experience, he's correct. That I continued to push myself. I continued to push my body. I continued to deny the intuitive nudges that I was feeling. I continued to trust what doctors were saying more than I was trusting the physicality of my actual experience. What my body was saying was all in service of, number one, I'm not a quitter. And so I developed this narrative in my brain that if I gave up, then I would be a quitter. And that would defy who I was as a human. Also that, what would other people think of me? Knowing that I'm going through this struggle, what would my family think? How would they see me? Would they see me as broken? And also, yes, Scott, what would he think if he knew that somewhere along the journey, in the middle of the journey, I became tired. My body became tired, and the desire.
Tired before she was of the whole process. I didn't like it. I wanted to quit way before she did.
And the truth of the matter is, I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know you were tired. Did you know that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore?
No, but I told you that I didn't want you to keep taking the drugs.
Right. So the point of this is that the experience is individual for everyone. And we started out on this journey with the united front. You know, we both wanted to have a child, and we were both letting the leadership of doctors and science to drive the direction of our journey. And along the way, both of our perspectives shifted, but we were both so confronted by the experience that it was probably a good 2 years later before we actually ever said the things that we were feeling, which was, you just, and I'm paraphrasing, so correct me, but you just wanted your wife back, and I just wanted myself back. And I was afraid that I was going to lose him. And in the experience, you were afraid that you were losing me, right?
Well, she was depressed and she was refusing to admit it. And I knew that if I ever said the words, you were depressed to her, that would make her really mad and cause a huge fight.
It did make me mad.
Yeah. And then I finally said it and I was correct, but it was, I should have said it probably 3 months earlier, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? We don't know. And I think that that's the overarching theme of what we're saying here is that there is no right or wrong way to experience infertility before it, during it, and after it. And, you know, just this past weekend, for those that don't know me and are new to my page and haven't read my book or have never met me before or heard anything about me, I have polycystic ovaries and stage 4 endometriosis. And as a result of having PCOS, and also can happen with endometriosis as well, periods can be late. And so it's been about, how long has it been? Like 4 years since we stopped doing infertility drugs?
Well, I think it's longer than that.
So it's been some time, obviously, but since having stopped doing it and since an elapse of time has occurred, this past period, my period was 6 days late. That's a long time to be late. And, you know, it's not enough that we struggle with infertility. It's not enough that my periods make me feel like an anvil is trying to drop out of my fucking vagina. I also have to have the experience of, is this going to be the magic? Is this going to be the miracle moment? Is this going to be 6 days that turns into 12 days that turns into 9 months? And in those moments, I still break down. What was it? I still try to stay so strong for myself, but what he was referring to going into this work, what he means is to becoming a life coach and going to therapy and allowing myself to get support and allowing myself to be honest about how I feel when I feel in this experience and telling the truth, because a lot of the time in the experience I wasn't telling the truth, not to him, not to my family, not to myself. And what he alluded to before was I was depressed and I didn't know it. And it is the work of life coaching and therapy that has allowed me to see what side I was actually on, where I wanted to be, what I wanted to choose. And like I said, this past Sunday, I allowed myself that moment of sitting down in the living room in the middle of the floor and looking at him with tears in my eyes and saying, God damn, this is a motherfucker. This journey is still fucking hard. And it still surprises me on moments where an elapse of time has occurred and then I find myself sitting in the middle of the floor crying and thinking, this shit, it's wicked. It's difficult. And allowing myself to surrender to that sadness, but also surrender to the knowledge of this is sadness because of what my heart wants and what it has wanted.
So what would you say to people that would be helpful? Because right now it sounds a lot like doom and gloom.
Yeah, that you allow, that you welcome that surrender, because we often think of surrender as giving up. And one of the things that infertility taught me is that surrender is active. It's not passive. It's a choice. It's a choice to say, well, what does surrender look like for me? And surrender for me looks like acknowledging the truth. And for me, our truth was sitting down when I finally did accept that I was depressed and saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't sacrifice my body to these drugs. I'm no longer married to the idea of using infertility treatments to have a child. I want to stop this. And so I would say it's, yes, it may feel like it's doom and gloom, but there's a place for that sadness. There's a place for that rage, because I was enraged. There's a place for that sorrow. There's a place for the love that you had and have for that dream of what you want. And there's an opportunity to allow yourself to still get the things that you want. We could have done IVF. I elected not to, at least at this juncture, because the drugs are just so aggressive.
I don't want to do it because I don't like the drugs either. I think we're on the same page. I don't think that it was like one or the other. I think both of us decided that the drugs are bad and they change too much of
me.
Yeah. Too many hormones and they're just not, I don't know.
And this is not us saying don't have hope. This is not us saying...
I think everyone should do whatever they want. If you want to adopt, you should adopt. If you want to do IVF or IUI, or you want to keep trying, then you should do whatever you want. But I think that you should also not feel like a failure if you decide that you want to not keep going with it. It's not... If you look on I am I tend to be an optimist almost all the time. So I look on the bright side of all the things that we can do later in life that we wouldn't have been able to do had we had kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, prior to the coronavirus, we could travel. Well, technically right now we were going to be in Belize.
Yeah, today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We would have been there
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. But like being able to afford to go to New York for 5 days and eat wherever we want at the more expensive restaurants. Like you wouldn't be able to do that if you had kids.
And I think it's important.
And not that that's a trade-off that I'm saying that people should want.
Right.
I'm just saying like it is a bright side of the hand that we've been dealt. Would we trade it for kids? Probably. But make the most of what you got. It's not a death sentence. So you can still live your life.
And it can hurt. It's still allowed to have those moments where it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's my biggest take home, is that you don't wake up one day. Acceptance is not waking up and being like, I don't give a fuck about that anymore, or this doesn't bother me. Acceptance is allowing yourself to find resolve and recompense in a scenario, in an experience, in a situation, whatever that looks like for you. And for me, I don't even know your answer to this, and so I'm curious. But for me, that looks like being like, today's a bad day, I'm allowed that. Today's a great day, I'm allowed that. Today's I don't really know how I feel about it day, I'm allowed that. And that's what I meant before when you said, feels like doom and gloom. With the surrender, with the making that choice actively of what it looks like for you, that also means acknowledging that you're allowed to have whatever experience you're going to allow. And what changed for me, what shifted for me in our experience, was me trying to have everything buttoned up and presented in like this really neat and pretty and organized box of like, I have it all together. This isn't getting to me. I'm A-okay. No problems here. And the more I tried to put up that front, and I just learned this recently, the more depressed I got, because I was pushing everything that was real for me down. And that didn't mean disacknowledging the fact that I want to be a mom. I want to feel my child grow in my womb. I want to feel it kick. I want to see who it looks like. I want to see what personality traits it has. I want to see what weird off the wall things they love that we're like, where did that come from? And I'll never get to the place where I'll stop wanting that. We'll always want our child.
Yeah.
We'll always want that. But I learned through this experience that I can have that want and that desire and hold it in my heart while continuing to allow myself to grow and move forward. Because in the struggle, I felt like I couldn't do that. I felt like I couldn't possibly want a child and move on and laugh and move on and have joy and move on and celebrate other people and move on and want different things and move on and change the way I feel about it. That was the biggest take home for me. However I feel about this in any experience in my life, I'm allowed. And infertility taught me that. I don't know. Is there any realization that you had through infertility about what you learned about your experience of this experience in our life?
I don't know. There's a lot of things, but I think the main thing was like I didn't expect to want to stop going through treatments. Like I thought that we would just keep going, and then I realized that that's not what I wanted. Like it wasn't worth it. I think that was probably the most surprising.
What wasn't worth it?
Like having you, like there's nothing that I could do. It feels helpless because you have to take all of the drugs. You have to go to the doctor. You have to get poked and prodded, and like I just go once a month and give like a sample. Like there's nothing that I can do. So
there's something so powerful in that, and like at the risk of making this like a 2-hour long video, maybe we could do another one. Because
I don't like being on camera all that much, and she didn't tell you guys that, so like I'm already like probably not doing a 2-hour video.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're gonna cut this off. I think here is a good place to cut off. But what I wanted to say was I think that that's something important to consider instead of continuing to just make this longer. I'd rather do something in a more bite-sized piece. But that's an important point, that you're saying, you know, you're the one that was going through all of it. And from my perspective, you were going through it too.
Well,
And there's
yeah,
an
but, I
important
mean,
point. There's an important
that's not what I
thing
meant.
to it. Oh, go ahead. What did you mean?
Well, I didn't mean that I wasn't going through it. I said I can't do anything. It's not like I could take the shots for you, or I could go
Right.
to the doctor for you. There's literally nothing that I could do. But it didn't mean it the way that you interpreted it. It was just like factual that I can't take the drugs for you.
Yeah.
So I can't like jump in and take some of the pressure off. There's nothing that I could
and
do other than be there emotionally.
Right.
Which I didn't do a great job of that either, but I didn't know how to do that stuff. Like, they don't tell you, like, no one prepares you for all of the things that the drugs are going to do to you. They're just like, oh yeah, take these shots, it'll be fine. They don't tell you about any of the side effects. The doctors were not super, our experience anyway, and I'm sure this isn't for everyone,
informative.
but like side effects or like what your expectations were going to be. They were, I don't think that they did a very good job of preparing you, like, this might not work. They were like, oh yeah, it's gonna work, it's gonna be great, and there's no reason this shouldn't work, like every time, like 8 times in a row or something like that when we were going through IUI. So every time it's a disappointment, and it's just like, what are we doing this for? It feels like you're being lied to.
And I think that you and I we're in different places on that, because I agree and I appreciate what you're saying, but at the same time I also feel like you don't know what you don't know. So I didn't know the questions to ask, and yeah, I at the time I also felt like, wow, I wish somebody would have told me, but at the same time I didn't know. And so I don't think what you're saying is like you blame them.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that there should be, I guess I'm not blaming them, but there should be better protocol standards
there's a
in
disconnect
place for, like, to help people through, like, they didn't do a very good job of supporting people emotionally, and they're treating this as it is something that you can just fix. And it's not that way. They're not considering how people feel at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, in my opinion, it's more dangerous than the actual drugs or any of the things that you go through. Mm-hmm. It's, you're not considering, like, what's happening to these people emotionally as they're going through it, and you're not giving them any support while they're going through it. So,
and that's the reason why I wanted to do this, right? Like, in all fairness, I said, do you want to do this video? And he said, that is not what you said. You lie on me. Making me look like a liar up here.
0% of my life have I ever wanted to do a video.
What did you say?
I want to do it with you.
There we go. So just to be clear, because I'm not in a business of forcing my will on people, because that is the antithesis of what I feel. And also the reason why I took agency to write my book the way that I wrote my book, the reason why I feel like it's important to speak out here, because we all experience life differently. And we all have different needs and different wants. And for me, in our experience, I learned that there's a disconnect for the emotional intelligence and stability of a human going through a trauma. And for me, infertility was a trauma. And there was a gap in between, here, stab yourself with this drug because it's supposed to work, and hey, did it work? Nobody was asking the questions in between. How's your mind today? How's your heart today? How's your energy today? How are you physically today? And these are the things that I really use as core foundational tools in my coaching, because it's what I needed. And if I need it, then hell, I can't expect that nobody else could have a need for somebody to say, how are you doing today? How's your heart today? How do you feel in your body today as you're going through something that is really big and very challenging and stressful and hopeful and exciting and also cautious and confusing and frustrating? It's a bevy of emotions and a bevy of experiences happening all at one time. And the disconnect that I want to fill the gap for is checking in with people and saying, you're a human, and however your human is experiencing this experience is allowed. Wherever you are today, it's totally okay, as long as you're allowing yourself that. As long as you're willing to say, this is who I am and this is what I need, or maybe I need something, I want support. I need something extra, and allowing yourself to go do that. Or saying, even though this doctor is saying this doesn't feel right to me. I'm allowed to get a second, third, fifth opinion. I'm allowed to go from Western to Eastern medicine. I'm allowed to say, I really, really wanted it, and now I don't anymore. And it doesn't mean that you don't want the family. It can mean that I don't want this experience. I don't want to put myself through this. I have learned, and now I want something different. And I think it's fair to say that we both would love to have kids with each other, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that it makes us sad because we would be great parents.
Okay.
We would. And as you can see, it still makes me emotional, and that's okay because I think he's a great man.
Thanks, man. She'd be a much better parent than I would, I think.
We would be great parents together.
Okay.
But we're still good humans together.
Yeah.
And we still love each other. And God, we've been through fucking fire, it feels like.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I wouldn't trade any of this stuff. I would still marry her. Again, all over. So.
The other thing is I never wanted to be married. You know, I'm just all over the place. But that's the charm of me. Yeah. Right? And this may be a little disjointed, and this interview may be a little bit all over the place, but, you know, so is life. And ultimately, during this time period where we're all coronavirusing and social distancing from home, it was important to me to take time to speak to you in our natural coronavirus. He just told me before this he thinks he stinks. In our natural,
it's not bad. I need a shower.
Coronavirus attire, because we're just humans, and we're just humans that care about you. And it's not just infertility. I want to be clear that we care about you and your struggle. It's life. We care about you in your life, and we want you to get what you want, and we want to be champions for people understanding that at any time things can change. You can change, your opinions can change, your wants can change, your feelings can change, your thoughts can change. And it's okay if you do too. And whatever that looks like for you, whatever a family means to you, whatever love looks like to you, whatever growth looks like to you, we're champions for that. We're champions for people being true and honest to themselves. Because I feel like that makes us good humans. I feel like that makes us better people when we can just be who the fuck we are without pretense. Without putting up a persona for someone to, are they going to like this? I'm going to put this out into the world. So we wanted to say that...
Celebrate Infertility Awareness Week.
Yeah, we wanted to say please help us in celebrating Infertility Awareness Week, not only for those that are struggling, those that you love that are struggling, but for any human in the world that struggles with anything. It's time that we celebrate difference. It's time that we acknowledge we're all different and unique. And it's time that we acknowledge that our difference is what makes us so alike. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. How's your heart today if no one's asked you? How's your mind today if no one's asked you? How do you feel physically today if no one's asked you? And
Are they going to respond to you?
No, you don't have to.
You
Respond to yourself. No,
What?
I just want this to be... I mean, you can if you feel inclined. Please post below.
You just asked all these people how their heart and their mind...
I care, right?
Yeah,
it's a question I want them to be asking themselves. I implore you to ask yourselves.
What if they don't have anyone to share it with? You can share it with me.
You can share it here. I just said that. Please share it here. But if it's in... Because, look, I'll own that when I was in the thick of my struggle, and you may not be this way, but like when people were asking me, I would say, I'm fine, which to me is, help me. When I hear I'm fine inside, when I say it to myself, I know that I'm not fine. And I needed to be able to answer that question for me first, instead of trying to find an answer for everybody else. Oh, I'm okay, because that's my habit. That's my habit, that's my pattern, tell everybody I'm fine because I don't want them to think I'm not. I don't want them to think I'm broken or they need to coddle me. I don't want them to think anything other than Shannon has her shit together, because I was worried that judgment would come along with that. So I don't have any expectation of anybody answering anything. But if you want, and it feels good for you, please go ahead and post below. If it's something that feels better for you to answer in private, I welcome you into my DMs. I really, truly do, to just give yourself a platform to be heard. And if that isn't what you want, then I encourage you to take this on with yourself. Start answering these questions for you every day. How's my head today? How's my heart today? How do I feel physically today? And if the answer is something feels crazy, awry, weird, unlike you, then I ask you to ask yourself, where do you feel it? What is it that you feel, and where do you feel it in you? Allow yourself to pinpoint it just for you. Oh, and I also just wanted to offer that this month, I am currently offering, not this month, until further notice, I am currently running something called a 100 Conversations. It is a free 1-hour coaching session with me, and it's my way of contributing and giving back. Nothing is off the table. I'm an ontological coach, so whatever you want to talk about, I can handle it. So go ahead to the link in my bio, click on it, select I want a 100 conversation. It's going to take you to my Square App account where you can book a calendar invite to whatever works for your schedule. Book it with me and we'll get it on the books. Otherwise, please be good to yourself, for fuck's sake. Ooh.
Oh, she's coming back. She found a sticker.
I found it. I have it hanging in my office. Infertility sucks, you don't. And please be on the lookout later this week, all this week, for contributions about infertility, maybe little excerpts, insights, videos, what have you from me. And if you know someone that struggles with infertility or struggles in general, please don't hesitate to reach out to them. Sometimes all a person needs is just knowing that somebody cares. We care about you. We care about your well-being. Final words?
Bye.
Be good to yourself, for fuck's sake. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.